Hello, everyone. I'm Kat Timpf, along with Eric Bolling and Mo Elleithee, who's filling in for Ebony K. Williams. We are the Fox News Specialists. New names raising new questions about Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. Fox News' John Roberts reporting a short time ago that there may have been at least 8 people in attendance at that sit-down. That includes a Russian-American lobbyist who revealed he's also attended the June 2016 meeting between the Russian lawyer, Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort. The lobbyist, Rinat Akhmetshin, is a veteran of a Soviet military counterintelligence unit. He also has reported ties to Russian intelligence, which is an accusation that he denies, of course. Akhmetshin told the Associated Press today that the meeting was, quote, not substantive, and he, quote, actually expected more serious discussion. Changing stories raise any issues for you, Eric, at all?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking for the notes where it says Trump Jr. did something wrong. Nope, I don't see anything in there that he did anything wrong. Again, there were more people. Okay, so I guess you could make the case that there are more people that he didn't mention before. But I mean, honestly, it was a meeting. It was a sit down. It was portrayed as some opposition research. It ended up being something about an adoption policy program that that was being pulled, that these people were lobbying for. And at the end of the day, there's not much there for me still.
Well, why all the changing stories, Mo? What do you think?
That's my question.
Right.
Why all the changing stories? Look, there will be a robust discussion and debate, I'm sure, about whether or not this was collusion or not, whether it was wrong or not to take the meeting in the first place. I think it was. We can have an honest debate on that. But as a longtime communications strategist,
you think it was collusion?
I think there's a lot of smoke here. But hold on, Eric. No, look. My point is this:
you made an accusation.
I think when a hostile foreign government comes in and says it wants to give you information against your opponent, that should send up a lot of red flags.
But you said there was collusion.
But let me finish my other point. Let me finish my other point, which is, for a White House that has been out there trumpeting transparency around this whole thing because Donald Jr. sent out the emails, every day there is more to the story. As a communication strategist, I wonder what they're doing, because it certainly does not put them in a good light.
I respect that part of it, but the part I'm pushing back on is you threw it out there right off the top, Mo. You said you think there's collusion. I'm trying to find out who colluded to do what?
And we got a lot of time to talk about it, all right? But first, we got to meet the specialists. He's a Democratic former U.S. congressman from Ohio. He's also a former mayor of Cleveland, and he ran twice for president in 2004 and 2008. But he specializes in rescuing dogs and cats, so you know that he's a good guy. Dennis Kucinich is here. And he's a former law professor, the former deputy director of Voice of America, and the current co-chair of Project 21, an advocacy group for center-right African Americans. But he specializes in the legal system and coalition building. Horace Cooper is here. All right, now we can all get involved in what I'm sure will be a very lively discussion. Horace, I want to ask you, does this raise any concerns for you that it keeps changing the story?
What raises concerns for me are the casual way people use legal terms like claiming there's treason or collusion, etc., or that the Russian government did something. Last time I checked, if this were the 1950s and you said because someone from the Soviet Union was involved in anything, that was called red baiting, it required you to actually identify what policy, what requirement, what expectation was being made by the official government of the former Soviet Union. Now we have people, one of whom is a citizen of the United States now. Because he was born in Russia, it's okay to just simply dismiss and wash all of his actions as if he is an agent of the country from which he was born. I used to think that was called un-American to do that to people based on where they were born.
That's, of course, a separate issue. I'm just specifically, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer. But as a human being, if there's anybody that starts changing stories, I say, why are you doing that, Dennis? What do you think?
Well, I'm not a lawyer either. I just play one on TV.
Oh, okay.
I was chairman of a congressional investigative subcommittee, so I get a feel for the flow of events and what people say. Here's the way I read this. The Trump organization, politically inexperienced. So there may be inconsistencies in the story. But when I look deeper at this meeting, let's say with this attorney set up the meeting under false pretenses. They didn't end up talking about anything relating to so-called dirt. And it turns out this person was also working to change some congressional legislation. So I look at that, and even more beyond that, which really blows my mind that a lot more hasn't been made out of it, this group that she was somehow connected with was doing opposition research on Donald Trump. So what is this? This is like a hall of mirrors. And big picture, I think this thing is a bunch of nothing. Yeah. I really do.
Can I follow up on the congressman? So this Fusion GPS is the group you're talking about, right? Somehow connected through one of these people who were at the meeting. Not sure which one. One of them, so Natalia Veselnitskaya, connected to Fusion GPS, who also was connected, Fusion GPS, to the opposition research, the payment, the Russian dossier, completely correct. Christopher Steele, the British operative who put together this Russian dossier, somehow got payment from Fusion GPS. So instead of pointing the finger at Donald Trump Jr. and saying maybe he's colluding, big word, colluding with the Russians, maybe the Russians were colluding with Hillary Clinton to get information on Donald Trump.
Here's what concerns me, right? The one part of the sequence that really is concerning to me is where it said that this person has information that would damage your opponent. It is part of the Russian government's efforts to support your candidacy.
All lies.
But Donald Trump Jr. did not know that before he walked into that meeting. He took the meeting. That should have sent up a red flag. And the fact that it has changed, the fact that the story keeps changing should send up another red flag.
Mo, you know, I understand the concerns that are expressed, but I'd like to go, you know, a little bit deeper. And that is that the law reads receiving something of value. He didn't receive anything of value. It was nothing. And whatever his intention was to get information. Look, I've been in politics a long time. People come to you and they say, hey, guess what I got? If it's nothing, and nothing plus nothing equals nothing. And I don't think there's anything here. If I did, let me tell you, I wouldn't hesitate to say it. I've been a chairman of an investigative subcommittee. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Let me throw something else at you, Mo. So Veselnitskaya was originally turned down for a visa, and she reapplied through the so the State Department says no. But the DOJ, Loretta Lynch, says, yes, we'll let you in. Why would the State Department allow Veselnitskaya in when the State Department said no? And then also know about this meeting. Now, there's some indication the State Department even knew this meeting was going to happen. There may have been a FISA court warrant.
So, Eric, I want to ask you, do you think that this lawyer is dangerous or just a lawyer? Because I know you've said, oh, just a lawyer, and then when it's Obama's fault, you say she's dangerous.
After she left this meeting, she went to D.C. She spent 8 days in D.C. She was lobbying people in D.C., Congress people. She showed up at a congressional testimony. She was knocking on doors for her issue.
Dinner?
It was the adoption issue that she was consistent with. I think she duped Trump
So they did a bait and switch.
Yes.
Hello.
On Saturday.
But let's go back to the 601 waiver, which you identified. This is an extraordinary issuing document. It isn't granted across the board. A high level, it didn't have to be the Attorney General, but a high-level individual approved this, and this is after she had been denied. And then when you had this high-level approval, she's allowed to extend beyond its operational time points, and nobody's watching her. But it's now Donald Trump Jr.'s job to keep up with who she is and what she's doing. It would be
if she's dangerous, it goes back to Obama's Department of Justice.
What he knew was that someone with ties to the Russian government, in an attempt to support his father's candidacy, had information they wanted to share about Hillary Clinton. That in and of itself, any other campaign operative I have ever met in my life on either side of the aisle would have said, hold on, this is something worth passing on. Instead, he brought the campaign
that's because you, as a very astute political advisor, would say, hey, that's probably not politically expedient for you to do. Now, okay, I'll give you that. Certainly wasn't illegal. Nothing happened that was illegal, nor did they break any
It's more than an issue of political expedience.
I challenge the finding that he understood when he met with her that she had specific high-level ties with the Russian senior leadership.
Well, that's
I challenge that.
The email said
no,
it.
the email said that.
Well, she's puffing. That's
But
what
he
she's
did not
doing to
know
get
that.
her meeting.
But he did not know
No,
that.
what he's trying to do is get the information. What he's trying to do is get the information. And as soon as he got into the meeting, he realized, you know what? I got duped. But you know what? I got duped last week on something else. And I got duped a week before on something else.
And give him some credit. Maybe he's not getting duped so much.
It's the political inexperience here this reflects. And I think that Donald Trump Jr. has learned a lesson, and I hope it's a valuable lesson. But, you know, right now I'm trying to figure out, does this story belong in a Ludlum novel, or does it belong on Mad Magazine, Spy versus Spy? I don't know.
Problem today is it's all mixed up.
The mainstream media loves the story. They're going wall to wall with it for the last. And I'm still waiting. Just give me one shred of evidence. Give me one thing that he did or they did that breaks campaign finance law or breaks laws that govern everyone else as well.
The email chain raises a whole lot of questions that is legitimate for the investigation to look at.
Still haven't broken any laws, though, Mo.
I think the investigation will find that out, and maybe they will come to that conclusion, Eric. But man, does it raise questions that are legitimate questions to ask.
Don't take in opposition research from someone who says they have it.
No,
from a hospital.
From someone who pretends to be a representative.
Would you say the Ukrainian government would be equally as concerning to you as a political advisor as
Absolutely
the Russians?
not.
Why?
Well,
Ukraine and Russia, we have different relationships with those countries. I'm not defending that either. I think that was wrong.
I
think that what the DNC did with
you probably like to dictate who our president
I agree with you that what the DNC did in Ukraine was wrong. I completely agree with that. But if you think that's the same as what Donald Trump Jr. did, then do you think that what he did was wrong?
No, I
or do you think that the Ukraine one was not wrong?
What the Ukrainians did with Hillary Clinton is far more a violation of everything we're about than what happened with Donald Trump Jr.
Why is that?
It was a nothing burger.
But he wanted, it was failed, collusion, it could be used colloquially legally.
I want all the money in the Bank of New York also. But I didn't go and steal it. And I shouldn't go to jail for wanting that either.
Yeah, we didn't try.
Buzzer shot here.
Yeah.
We need to seriously work to improve our relationship with Russia.
Agreed.
We have to clear away all the dross here and all the fake issues and get to real issues such as nuclear disarmament, environment, and other things. And we've spent a lot of time on this, and it's going nowhere. I don't care how many investigations they have. I've seen these kind of investigations going nowhere.
And I guess I would disagree with you, Congressman, in that I don't think serious allegations about the Russian government trying, whether or not they were successful, trying to meddle in our electoral process is a serious issue that is worth exploring.
I don't know that they have done that.
Russia,
they hasn't been proven.
Then it could be China. It could be North
Mo, has it been proven that they've done it?
Isn't that what the special investigation is looking
Well, have it,
at?
but you know, for those of us who
multiple intelligence agencies have said yes.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if that's a political statement or a forensic statement? I mean, really.
I think we ought to be giving U.S. intelligence agencies some credit here, as opposed to the Kremlin's mouthpiece.
Well, this happened during a previous administration. It's political.
All right, President Trump. In other news, healthcare is still a thing, guys. President Trump is turning up the heat on Senate Republicans to get their healthcare bill over the line. Will moderates seal its fate? The latest, next.
It's time with your time and this news. It's captured for the Queen to use.
President Trump dialing up pressure on Senate Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare. The president tweeting earlier today, quote, Republican senators are working hard to get their failed Obamacare replacement approved. I will be at my desk, pen in hand. The president also tweeting, quote, after all of these years of suffering through Obamacare, Republican senators must come through as they have promised. But a number of centrist Republicans are now reportedly digging in their heels, demanding better funding for Medicaid and helping poorer Americans buy health insurance. I'll bring it around, Horace. We'll start with you. Your thoughts on whether or not this bill has a chance of becoming a law?
I actually am kind of pessimistic. I know that the Senate Majority Leader is the kind of guy that can pull a rabbit out of a hat, but I think this is a lot harder than even he, and with the skills that he brings on to the table. What I predict is Moab, the mother of all bills, and it's coming. And it is going to be a debt ceiling. It is going to be the government's annual budget. It's going to be health care reform, and it's going to have some infrastructure in it. And it will obviate the need for the 50 vote or the 51 vote majority. It will operate with 60 because if you don't do it, the government stays shut until enough recalcitrant Democrats come along. Maybe they get a little something, but that happens sometime in October.
And Congressman, this bill seems to have, there are these goodies that keep coming. These I heard a $45 billion goodie for someone, a $20 billion goodie for another, a $1 billion goodie for an Alaskan senator. This is part of the problem with D.C., right?
When are the American people going to get the goodies in terms of adequate health care, insurance policies they can afford, get rid of the high deductibles? I mean, look, health care is a major economic concern, but it also reflects what kind of a nation we are. I mean, this is a nation, we're United States. We must be united for our people's health, and because that's wealth. And we need to think about how the insurance companies are making money not providing health care. And the one thing I'd like to inject into this discussion that's never been brought up before in any of the debates, each one of us has responsibility for our own health to an extent. And if we encourage personal responsibility, if we encourage prevention as part of it, we can lower health care costs. And we can also make it possible to have a system where everyone's covered in America. That's what I stand for. You know, I've written the legislation as a member of Congress, Medicare for All. But Horace, I don't know that Congress can slip this present bill into an overall budget bill, because if they do, they'll shut down the government.
Oh, it's going to shut down. That's part of the problem, is if they don't get the 50 votes here, it's not going to pass. And then they're going to have the problem of what do you do to get those unhappy conservatives on board with the budget, with the debt ceiling. Those people are not going to be satisfied with just giving a rubber stamp to let things go as normal.
I'm sorry, I want to bring Kat in because that sounds terrible to me.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible, not only from a personal standpoint, from an American citizen. It sounds terrible from a Republican standpoint that when you shut down the government, they tried it before, it didn't work out so well. It was really, really bad for them.
Absolutely. And when we talk about healthcare, I know you and I are in complete agreement on this issue that this bill is a bad bill. It makes me, I mean, is Paul Ryan a conservative, or is he not actually conservative? Are a lot of these GOP congressmen actually conservatives? And if they say they are, what does that mean? Because I never thought conservative meant $200 billion bailout to insurance companies. I just simply didn't.
But the bigger the bailout, the fewer the number of votes for people who believe in liberty and limited government are going to be there. And so you get a standoff.
Politically, I'm saying that I'm terrified for the future of our republic as a free country. I think that this bill shows that we may have gone so far left that there's no turning back at this point.
Mo, I wrote a book called The Swamp, and I take shots at people on both sides of the aisle. One of my problems with this bill is I'm questioning leadership on the Republican side in both the House and the Senate. You know, they didn't do the things that Congressman Kucinich says, lowering the cost of health care. They're just playing around the edges. It feels a lot like Obamacare. That feels a lot like the swamp to me.
Well, I don't know a lot of Democrats that would say this bill actually feels like Obamacare, right? But I do think that you're right? One of the things I learned a long time ago is when my opponents are making a case for me, I should just shut up. And you guys are making the case very effectively that this bill isn't doing what it says it's supposed to do. And that's why you are seeing conservative members of Congress and moderate Republican members of Congress at each other's throats here. It's not lowering the cost of health care. For a lot of people, it is going to decrease access as projected right now under the current law. It is a no-win situation for anybody.
You know who wins? The healthcare lobby. The healthcare, the insurers and the healthcare lobby. And maybe that's why the real issues have never been addressed yet on both sides.
You're right on that. Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, I'm going to leave it right there. Next up, a federal judge yet again weakens President Trump's travel ban. Can the judicial activism be stopped? Stay with us.
A federal judge in Hawaii leveling a new hit on President Trump's travel ban against 6 Muslim-majority countries. In his ruling, U.S. District Judge Derek Watson has widely expanded the types of family members from those 6 countries that must be exempt from the ban, now to include grandparents, grandchildren, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and cousins of people in the U.S. The Justice Department announcing this afternoon that it will appeal the ruling. Horace, let me start with you.
They forgot neighbors.
What's wrong with I mean, my grandparents, you know, my cousins, my uncles and aunts, aren't they family?
If Judge Watson were sitting in my class, we'd have to call him in afterwards for some special remedial attention. Here's the fact. The policy that a judge is supposed to enforce is not about what's a good idea, what's a kind way to operate, but what in fact is the law. And he is supposed to do what traditionally judges do, is they give deference to the agency's interpretation of the law. And what is going to happen is that either the Ninth Circuit or the Supreme Court are going to summarily, by summarily I mean with about 9 days or less, overturn this decision. We've seen this kind of behavior before. I remember when there was a death penalty case and California was, the Ninth Circuit just didn't want to allow a death penalty to take place in the circuit. And they kept coming up with excuse after excuse after excuse. Finally, the Supreme Court said there will be no more appeals. That was dangerous.
Congressman, let me ask you this. Let's flip that argument around, though, right? I mean, one could argue that the Trump administration's initial ruling was a huge overreach by the executive branch to define family, right? I mean,
well, it actually was an overreach with respect to the Constitution, bringing up a religious test. But let's go beyond that. If you profess family values, it means families are valued. And if a grandfather, grandmother can't see their grandchildren, what's this about? I mean, what's happening to America?
But that's a policy point. That is not a legal question.
It's about the heart. I mean,
yes,
policy.
And I don't want radicals on the court exercising what their heart dictates. What happens if they have the opposite view, that you should never be with your family? But they get to say, the precedent is set, judges go with what their own hearts are. Yeah, well, we absolutely have to be constrained by the law.
You know, I wear this Constitution in a vest pocket over my heart. The heart and the Constitution have to be connected. You can't have government.
You know what else needs to be in there? The brain. You have to add the brain into this trifecta here. No, and that's what that's what the court was doing. Horace is 100% right. Ninth Circuit. Look, this doesn't have to be a nice bill, a ban. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't even have to be effective. It just has to be constitutional.
That's correct.
And the Supreme Court deemed it constitutional, so they can try and pick it apart piece by piece, but once they get to a certain point,
but again,
this man the bill completely.
Look, it started out with constitutional problems, okay? And I would just invite you to look at the topic of heart-centered intelligence. There's always a neural connection between the heart and brain.
Yeah, we all knew that this would be a little bit ambiguous, what does and does not designate a close relative or close family. The travel ban I see as security theater. I don't think I don't feel any safer because of it. However, it's constitutional. The president does have the authority to do these things. And what the court's doing here, I believe, is judicial activism.
Can I address what you just said? The ban isn't supposed to make the ban itself isn't supposed to keep dangerous people out and make you safer. The ban was supposed to be, let's take a breath, let's vet, let's see how our systems are, if they're working well enough, slow down immigration until we find out if we're safe and what we need to fix. There was a big difference.
I understand. I would actually like to hear a lot more about how that's going and whether those are actually being reviewed.
I've worked in a government agency.
But if we're talking about whether or not this is constitutional, this is judicial activism.
Well, hold on.
All right,
wait.
I've worked in a government agency. You don't have double the number of people to both do the vetting and make sure the system works properly and actual implementation. And since the stay went into effect, the implementation has been going forward. There aren't the people around to now vet the system just as you described.
Well, this topic isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Coming up, it's time to wake up, America. Eric will sound off on the Trump administration's Sebastian Gorka and his recent showdowns with the mainstream media. Next.
Welcome back to the Fox News Specialist. Our specialists today are Dennis Kucinich and Horace Cooper. Welcome, both of you guys. Let's continue the conversation. It's time to wake up, America. What a week it's been in the liberal wilderness that is the mainstream media. I really think I stumbled on the reason these journalists keep getting duped by their own anxious anticipation to take down Trump. They just can't believe how they got it all wrong. Hillary was going to win, and the wildly biased liberal media was ready to heap adoration on their golden girl for years to come. Who can forget this scene from the 2015 election, where the liberal media was so excited for just a glimpse of their candidate Scooby-Doo van, they almost trampled each other for a peek. Watch.
You can see the media running behind me here to chase the Scooby van.
Wow.
And she's going around to the back.
Wow, they're...
All right, and we'll see her very soon.
Guy in the orange pants is pretty quick. Alex, I mean, I'm looking at these people. Wow. All right, now, orange pants, he's really outnumbered now.
I think there's Jake Tapper in the orange pants. I'm not sure. Oh, hey, isn't that precious? And then 9 months after her loss, the media still can't get over it. Case in point, Wednesday night, Anderson Cooper took an on-air beating in a debate with Sebastian Gorka. He should have left it right there. Instead, Cooper later brought in a stage full of supporters to analyze the interview. Anderson's friends tried to convince him and his audience that it wasn't such a bad beating after all that Gorka had just administered. So how did Anderson Cooper respond to all the felicitation?
Is because he gives interviews like that and insults us the way Donald Trump likes.
It's like Don Rickles. That's his shtick. It's like the Hungarian Don Rickles. I don't worry too much about it. But I just find it interesting that he doesn't answer the questions.
Oh, Anderson. Cheap shot at Gorka using his nationality as a joke. That's so not tolerant of you. Now, if I did that joke about someone's ethnic background, your pals in the liberal media would be calling for my head. Good thing we conservatives, Sebastian Gorka included, can laugh at your jokes. Speaking of funny, though, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to remind you all of that election night in May for the special election in Georgia 6. This picture could be titled #NotWinning. They say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Oh, boy, does it ever. Now, Congressman, look at the long faces on there. So what do you think about this? I mean, do you think they keep pulling these Russia stories after Russia stories? They just completely missed the Trump win.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are people who are not over the 2016 election. And I think it's important for the Democrats to reorganize and move forward with an agenda that'll attract the attention of the American people and win their sentiments on practical matters: economy, healthcare, education, retirement security, peace. Those are things that people are concerned about. But, you know, the stuff that's going on in the media, though, there's a lot of hyper-partisanship that's not good for the country. And as far as Mr. Gorka being the Hungarian Don Rickles, I think that we ought to be sensitive to it being taken as a slight to the Hungarian community, even though I knew Don Rickles and he was a wonderful comic. So let's thank the Hungarian people for their contribution to America. Kucinich and Horace.
Very good. It was nice, nicely done, Congressman. Horace, your thoughts on what the media, their minds are blown that Donald Trump is president right now. But I agree with the Congressman. As long as the Democrats keep focusing on Trump and Russia, they're never going to come up with an agenda that's going to win in 2018.
So it's a curious business model. This network came about because people recognize that the majority of the American people, and as a kid myself, I'm one of those who said, we're not being well served with a fair and balanced news network. And it appeared, and suddenly swarms of people, and at one point, it became so large that it was competing with ESPN and all these others. Here's what I believe is happening.
Now we win.
Yes, not competing, now win.
Winning.
CNN says, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that smaller group, much smaller group, a minority of people who have a whole different idea about America, and they wish that Hillary had won, and we'll just get them to watch us. And it could actually increase our rating by 20% or 30%. They're never going to get a majority of the American people, and in fact, they're alienating the overwhelming majority of the public. But it's a business model that they think is worth it. It would be far better to go after all of America, and you'll see how positive that could be.
Kat, your thoughts on the mainstream? Do they have Trump derangement syndrome?
I think that certain people do. I just don't know why I'm not allowed to care, like, just kinda. To think that maybe there's something there a little bit, but it's not the only thing we should be talking about. I feel like there's one side that says this is a nothing burger and it's a, deep state liberal media thing. And then another thing says for sure Trump should be impeached. Treason, Putin. I just am not ready to put a tinfoil hat on either side right now. I'm not trying to be a FBI agent / psychic. I'm saying, hey, there's some certain questions I have. Let's wait and see it play out. And can we talk about some other stuff? And, also this, but some other stuff too.
Quick point.
Go ahead. Quick.
Malaysia. When the plane crashed, it was a real story. It just didn't need to get 23 hours out of the day. This is the same thing.
So you say, Horace is saying maybe Trump is CNN's new Malaysia.
Well,
yes.
The thing is, Malaysia wasn't ideological. It wasn't political. It was sensational, right? Look, I think we are in a war here between politicians of both parties and the media, right? Go back 20 years. It's not like the media went easy on questions like the Lewinsky scandal or Whitewater. That was wall-to-wall coverage. The Clinton White House felt like it was in a bunker back during those days. Now you've got this White House saying, why aren't you covering anything else? The media saying, well, because the president just tweeted about this.
Obama leans over to Dmitry Medvedev and says, after the election, tell Putin, after the election, I'll have more leeway to do things. And that was ignored by the media.
You know how I knew about that? Because I saw it in the media on every network. It's not like...
Here, you saw it here, Mo.
I don't remember which one I was watching that day, but I know they all covered it. They all covered it,
I don't think they're covering wall-to-wall the way they're covering everything that Trump, every person that Trump meets is, somehow colluding with them.
The reality is both parties feel under siege by the media, and they're feeding the ongoing battle.
We're going to leave right there. Straight ahead, it's Kat on the street. New York City is becoming a more and more stress-ridden mess. So why are so many tourists still flocking here? We all want to know. But Kat finds out next.
It's been said that New York is the greatest city in the world. For the life of me, I can't understand why. Forbes ranks New York as the second most stressful city in America, and a new study says it's the third worst run city in the country. Despite it all, more than 60 million tourists visit the Big Apple every year for vacation. So I headed over to the tourist mecca, Times Square, to find out why they were there on purpose. So you guys are tourists?
Yes, we are.
Meaning you came to New York City for vacation?
Yes, we did.
Where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
From Kansas.
We're from Canada.
And you came to New York City to relax?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Please help me. Yeah. Any tips for me in terms of how to relax in New York, or you even figure that out?
I mean, I guess we're going to try to figure it out. I'm sure you've been here longer than we have.
We've been here for about 3 hours.
Been here for 3 hours?
3 hours.
You've probably aged 10 years and you just don't know it yet. Do you feel very relaxed right now?
My wife's a little tense.
I am a little tense all the time. That's just how it is.
We're going to Niagara Falls after this, and she's ready to leave now.
So you are in Times Square on purpose?
Absolutely. No other place in the world like it.
Well, that's true.
The planning was to go to Asbury Park, and I thought, well, my goodness, we can't come all the way over here and not see the city.
Beach condo sounds like vacation. New York is like if a panic attack were a city. So what's been your favorite thing so far to see?
The Times Square is very nice, and the Central Park as well.
Central Park vacation vibe. Times Square has more of like a vibe to me.
Yeah, it is. It is.
We were just talking about that. People come here to get energized.
What energizes you in the city?
It's just the excitement, the atmosphere.
The atmosphere never stops. You can smell it right now. Have you taken the subway yet?
No, I don't think we're going to do that.
You seem very relaxed. How do you stay so chill in New York City?
A lot of wine. I'm just kidding.
That's what I do. What have you been doing that's been so relaxing?
And we took the ferry to Staten Island.
Oh, yeah, that was really nice.
Staten Island ferry is relaxing. This is all very incredible information.
It's actually pretty stressful. It's a really big cultural shock.
Yeah.
It's very different from being in East Tennessee.
So you came to New York City from Spain for a vacation. Do you feel relaxed right now?
No.
Sometimes I just, stay under my bed and, just stay there and I don't leave. I never felt like the words vacation and New York City belonged in the same sentence.
I'm a big theater nerd, so like this is where the best theater is. So for me, like doing that and seeing something new is a vacation.
Wow, that's a good. I do see something new every day here. Not always good stuff though. He looks very relaxed right now. You relaxing in New York?
Sure.
That's a very relaxed answer. He didn't even care I was asking the question. That's amazing. I need more of this attitude. Can we talk later?
We go like rat watching in the subways. It's so.
You go rat watching in the subways?
Yeah, we do.
So I should be looking at the rats as my friends / a potential evening plan. So maybe New York is kind of awesome. I just need to embrace it. Also, if anybody wants to go rat watching with me in the subway later, I'd be willing to give it a try. Any takers? Rat watching?
No. Apparently, it's very common, though. Look, Times Square is iconic. People come to see all the lights and everything. And Broadway, that young lady said she comes from Broadway. It's the best Broadway. It's the best theater on the planet. But you ever notice, like, all these post-apocalyptic movies, like The World Is Ending, Times Square is still kicking?
Yeah.
Like, everyone meets in Times Square and survives.
Cockroach of tourism, right?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Look, the most stressful thing about, I live in D.C., not exactly the most relaxed city in the world. The most stressful thing about New York is getting here for me. To the powers that be, if you can fix LaGuardia Airport, please do that, right? But, you know, look, I love this piece. I love these real Americans from all over the country, people from all over the world who just are excited to, like, be in New York. And you come here to see things you will not see anywhere else.
Did you
Look, I'm from Cleveland, and next to Cleveland, New York's the greatest.
Cleveland is wonderful.
We call that damning by faint praise.
Oh, no. Cleveland is the greatest. But here, let's look
Well, not in baseball, though.
Hey, you know, first in the American League and first in the hearts of the people. But energy, drama, excitement in the streets here. This is a pulsation here. This town is alive. And so you got to celebrate it. Yeah, there's problems.
I agree. I love living here. It's very alive, very awake, but sometimes I want to take a nap. You know what I mean?
Oh, come on.
It's really,
wait
really
a minute.
hard.
No.
Subway.
Yeah, don't do that.
Apparently not. According to what I've seen on Drudge, it's not a good idea.
All right, well, if New York stresses you out too much, Nevada could be your cup of tea to mellow out. Recreational weed became legal there 2 weeks ago. There's just one problem. Booming sales have now led to a statewide shortage. Stocks are so plumb dry, the state's Republican governor has been forced to step in and push emergency regulations to boost the number of distributors. You know, they're talking about $1 million tax revenue here, or excuse me.
Many
millions, up to 100 million in tax revenue. So yeah, they should probably get it together. I would
listen, I'm on board. Legalize it. Definitely decriminalize it across the country and legalize it. The numbers you point out, massive tax revenue to the state, and they all need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not on board on the pot legalization train. You know, if a Friday night comes along and you need something, what's wrong with the little Grey Goose that you can get at the corner? Why do you need to take this opportunity that really comes with a whole host of other baggage?
I prefer vodka personally. I would choose. Yeah, I'm not really a weed gal, but some people are, and that's their choice, and that should be their ability to get it legally if they want.
I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't care if marijuana is legal.
Yeah.
And if people can make revenue out of it, they did the same thing with alcohol.
100 million is what they're saying in tax revenue, and why not? And people, they can. It's Nevada. They can probably get it anyways. They're just doing it legally. Better, safer, tax revenue. Everybody's happy. Everybody should be a fan. All right. When we return, but some people won't be. But we circle back with our specialists, Dennis Kucinich and Horace Cooper. Come back.
Time to circle back with our specialists, Dennis Kucinich and Horace Cooper. Congressman, you're a Democrat. You were known to be a very liberal Democrat, but you recently slammed the Democratic Party for destroying the party as the party, the opposition party, as effective opposition. What advice would you give to Democrats who want to make a contrast with this administration to be more effective?
You want to challenge Donald Trump? Fine. But offer real alternatives. I think that, you know, the Democrats, in my view, shouldn't be locked into defending Obamacare, but should be offering a real health care proposal, single payer, Medicare for all. The Democrats ought to stand for peace instead of voting for continually funding wars. The Democrats ought to stand for jobs for all. That goes in with Mr. Trump's infrastructure program. The Democrats ought to stand for education for all. There's 32 million Americans that are adults who are illiterate. We've got to do something about lifting up the country.
Horace, my question's for you. You say you're a political forecaster. What's the political weather look like next week? Sunny, rainy, Russia. What do we got?
A Trump tweet.
A Trump tweet. All right. That's probably 100% accurate.
And just a few more seconds right now. If you go to my Twitter, take a look at the picture that I posted of the congressman and I. We squared up. I said we're going to battle some liberals. You got some good style. You got some good form there, Congressman. A fighter?
Well, I had a lot of practice. Actually, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I believe in peace, not war. And I love New York.
You're a black belt. You said, come on. You said, I said, illegally I have to warn you, I'm a black belt. So
no, I said martial artist, but there were some
But he was meaning artist.
There was some jest there.
But give war a chance.
And there we have it.
It's been given a chance.
Thank you. Thank you to our Fox News specialists today, Dennis Kucinich and Horace Cooper. And my thanks to everyone at Fox and the specialists here for letting me sit in for Ebony K. Williams today. We thank you all for watching. Remember, 5 o'clock will never be the same. Special report is next.
Weekend.
Yeah.
France celebrates America as President Trump basks in Bastille Day parade glory. But more revelations in the Russia scandal keep that issue front and center. And the White House is on deadline now to certify the Obama-era Iran deal a second time in a row. This is Special Report.